Yo! This time I'm going to make a song with a metronome. I created everything melodic in the song from one sample. Bounced that, I put that into an NNXT sampler. I wasn't really too happy with the way it sounded because it's still really percussive, and once I adjusted the tack so it's more just the tail end and the actual sound you're getting, it was super quiet and there wasn't really that much to play with. It's quite like a short percussive sound. Because that was the only sample I could play with, so I decided to stretch it out and make it super long. To do that in Reason, you get your clip, and if you go around the arrow to either kind of stretch it to the right or to the left, if you hold the Option key, you notice there's a little kind of clock there. So you just click and then you can stretch it to however as long as you want. So I stretched it, and then this was the sound which I got, which to me sounds a bit like a sitar. It sounds like a kind of stringed instrument really. So once I had that, I then exported that and popped that into an NNXT. And then I wrote a little chord progression. To achieve that sound, I wanted it to be a bit more of a bassy, kind of a bit drony really, so more bassy. So as you can see in the EQ, had a low cut, raised up the low end, took a bit of the tail end off, because again it did have this kind of quite a high pitch kind of whine to it really. So I didn't want too much of that to cut through. So that was my kind of chord sound. I then wanted to create a lead sound, so I pretty much copied this patch and inserted it into another NNXT. Took out much more of the low end, so I didn't want it to conflict with the first kind of bassy chords patch which I created, and because I wanted more of the high end to come through, just raise that up. And then I applied some reverb as well. And then I come up with just a kind of little simple kind of building riff which really accompanied nicely with the chord progression. For the second part of the song, I wanted it to all kind of kick in a bit more. So I created a lead sound which I kept dead in the middle. So I had the chords pan to the left, I had the other kind of lead sound pan to the right, but I really wanted to thicken it up and have something straight in the middle. So I pretty much copied the patch which I had pan to the right, which is a more sitar sort of lead. I think I just put a bit more kind of reverb and a little bit of delay on there and just had it panned right in the middle. And the final melodic aspect was sub bass. I wanted to have a nice kind of deep sub bass on there. This was a little bit tricky to kind of pull out of the sample which I had. It was a little bit similar to my previous video. Put the same sample into the NNXT, then I put quite kind of like a standard sort of EQ on there, took a lot of the high end out, really raised up the low end. So that's the sound which I liked. The only thing is, as I started going lower, it kind of started... You can hear like the sound kind of oscillating really. And that's something which I didn't want, because it starts to sound really muddy and it can conflict with a lot of the other sounds in the mix. So then what I've done, I just exported this one sound. So I put that sample into another NNXT. And that enabled me to get a more smoother, kind of lower subby bass. That was all the melodic aspects of the song. So then after that, it was just creating like a drum loop, drum beat to kind of go with it. It was really nice that I was able to get a lot of percussive sounds from the metronome. I achieved a kick sound just from tapping around the actual kind of shell of the metronome. I applied an EQ, so kind of like a little bit of a low cut, and kind of raised up the lower end just to make it more punchy, a bit more boomy, just to help it kind of cut through a little bit. For like a snare sound, it's from when I just kind of tap the side of it. When you release the metronome, it creates like a nice kind of tap sort of sound. So that teamed up with me tapping the metronome. So for the releasing of it, I drenched that in reverb just to kind of help it seem a bit more kind of bigger. And the two layered up together kind of cut through rather nicely. And then with other kind of taps and everything and other percussive sounds which I could get from the metronome, just kind of layered them up so it kind of fit nicely with the melody which I wrote. Also, what worked nicely to help that actually lead into the kick sounds was I just bounced the metronome and I reversed it. Creates a kind of sucking sound. Again, I use this quite a lot. It just helps to accentuate either like the kick drum that follows it, or you can use it for snares as well. So I just kind of compiled that to make a little loop. That was pretty much it, really. Quite straightforward. It's more just cutting up them initial samples which I got and kind of layering them up just to create a nice drum beat. And then once I had that, it's kind of just like a simple melody on there. I wanted this song to be kind of more percussive as opposed to melodic, really, just because I knew I could probably only pull out one sort of melodic aspect, which was from that ding. That's pretty much it.